Okay, so welcome everyone at home and welcome everyone here this evening. It's so nice to be with you. Last week we did a little experiment. We've been doing these little experiments at the beginning of class in addition to the guided meditation that we do at the end of class. And I had a reading here that I wanted to share in this this book I've talked about before called Falling into Grace by Adyashanti. And you can find this the name of this book on, it might not be there yet, list of resources on my website. This is Insights on the End of Suffering. That's what the name of this one is. The technique that we use to meditate, where we contemplate allowing everything to be as it is, comes from his other book, True Meditation. There's a CD in that book, and if you're just new getting started, that might be something pretty helpful. It's a pretty skinny book with a CD with, I think, 2 or 3 guided meditations in the back. Very short ones, 10 or 15 minutes, I believe. So last week we had a little experiment with our breath where we checked out what it was like to first count the breath and then to track the breath by labeling it in, out, and then to just release all that stuff and see what it was like to just follow it, just noticing it and allowing attention to go wherever it wanted to go. And for some reason, this struck me about this being open-minded and how it's related to this idea of using meditation and mindfulness practices to just follow our experience rather than trying to control our experience. And Adyashanti talks in the True Meditation book a lot about why he thinks that allow everything to be as it is a better way to meditate than trying to control our breath or count or force ourselves to focus on an object. And this little section here is called Being Open-Minded. And I think when we practiced last time, and we're going to do a little exercise today as well, when we practiced last time that breath exercise, that what we discovered was being open rather than closing down and counting or labeling the breathing. That openness was preferable. That experience felt better to people, from what I could tell from everybody who was here last week to experiment with that. And so I just want to read this little section that he writes in here about being open-minded. So the section, it's page 124, being open-minded. Before we can really open our senses in order to find our inner stability, we must understand what it means to really open our minds. What does the term open-minded really mean? We all hear that to be open-minded is a good thing. Yet we tend to turn the idea of open-mindedness into yet another goal we need to accomplish, as if it is some new self-improvement project, something else that we need to achieve. Open-mindedness comes naturally as we begin to see the ways that we argue with our experience, with events that are in fact immovable and unchangeable. Of course, the next moment may be very different, and the moment after that may be very different. But this moment is as it is, and any moment in the past is as it was. This is a very simple concept, but it's very difficult to let in, because it's so contrary to what we've been taught. The conventional worldview involves a constant state of evaluation and judgment. We're even praised for being able to debate and judge. We're constantly saying to ourselves what should and shouldn't be, what we like and what we don't like. We can open the door and it could be raining, and we might say, oh gosh, I hate the rain. It shouldn't be raining. I hate rainy days. At that moment, we are in opposition with reality. Reality is simply that it is raining. That is what's real. If we argue with it, if we judge it, then we're at odds with life. In many unconscious ways, we're taught that if we don't argue with what is, then somehow we aren't doing our jobs as human beings. But what is the effect of our constant judgment and evaluation of what was and what is? What effect does this have on us, both individually and collectively? Does it actually lead us to peace? Does it actually lead us to sanity? And most importantly, is it even true? Is it actually true that this moment should be different than it is? Is it actually true that the past should have been different than it was? When we begin to open our minds, we see that this continuous state of evaluation actually leads to suffering. It is when we clearly see this that we can begin to have the capacity to let go. When our minds start to open, we're no longer in a constant state of evaluation and judgment, and naturally then our senses open and we can really see what is before us. Our eyes open in a different way. Our hearing opens in a different way. Our emotions open. Our hearts open to all of existence. We see how judging and condemning actually closes our hearts and hardens us to our experience of life and others. Open-mindedness allows you to embrace the nature of your experience. This doesn't mean that you have to like every experience that you have. There are experiences that are painful. There are experiences that are unpleasant. Open-mindedness doesn't mean that you're just opening up to the good parts of life. It means you're opening to everything. And this is when you start to discover a type of inner stillness and inner stability, that vast, unchanging expanse that is at the heart of everything. And he goes on the next section to talk about the magical quality of life, and he talks about how when we meet openly, this stillness, this inner stability, that we're not actually making an effort to be still. And that's what happens when we do that meditation, when we introduce that question into our meditation space. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is? We're not actually forcing anything to be still. We're not forcing ourselves to be still. We're simply offering ourselves or opening ourselves to the opportunity to notice what's really here right now. And then we can notice that stillness is actually there, because of the busyness of the mind that covers up practically everything that's going on all the time. The commentator constantly having something to say about whatever's happening. We might not notice that stillness is actually underneath. It resides there the whole time. But we're not aware of it because we focus on the busyness of the mind. So he talks about when we open to life in this way, in the way that we do when we practice our meditation of allowing everything to be as it is, we begin to find an inner stability simply because we're no longer at odds with our experience. At any moment we come into an argument with our experience, an argument with life, we can look and see if it actually leads to peace, if it actually makes sense, or if it actually leads to discord and conflict. We then begin to find the silence, and we find ground in the silence, which is very stabilizing. There's a sense of homecoming, a sense of, I'm finally in alignment with what's happening, and this is the magic. This is what brings forth a sense of inner peace, inner balance, and equanimity. And it is within this silence that true stability is found. So the inner stability that he's talking about comes from the openness. It doesn't come from forcing ourselves to be quiet or forcing ourselves to be still. It's a different stance. And it might take some practice, and that's what we do here. We practice. finding that space, finding that position that we can be in that allows us to just experience what's actually happening. We have so much practice at looking for what's wrong. And that's not going to be undone overnight. No way. That's been there for a really long time. In my own practice right now, I'm noticing, when things start to get stressful, I can feel how I'm looking for what's the thing that I could look forward to that's not this moment, and can I get through until that moment? And then I remember, I don't want to skip that much of my life. I don't want to bypass, even no matter how uncomfortable it is. I only get so many moments. I don't know how many those are. And I don't want to just say, oh, those ones don't count. I'm going to wait until that next one that looks nicer up ahead. And ways that we can do that, the ways that we can open to the present moment, are things like asking a question, what is there here for me to appreciate in this moment? And we can find all kinds of things, really simple things. And it's not a cliche at all. Any one of us, in any moment, can find things that we're appreciating. We can appreciate the simple comfort of the chair we're sitting in, or the clothes on our body, or being in the company of someone that we enjoy being with, doing an activity that brings us some sort of satisfaction or pleasure. If we're outside, that's easy, The wonder of nature is just there. The blue sky, or the rain coming down, or, this time of year especially, there's a ton to appreciate. Right? Everything that's happening in front of us that we usually don't see because we've skipped ahead. We're looking for something better, the next better moment. In the world of spiritual teachers, I think they have a term for that. It's called spiritual bypassing, when people want to just hang out in the fuzzy, floaty, transcendent moments and skip over all the icky bits, right? So I don't like this moment. I'm going to hang out above everything. Oh, right? But that's not freedom. If we have to run away from whatever's happening in the moment, that is not freedom. Imagine if you didn't have to run away from any moment, ever. What would that be like? Can you imagine? Can you get a sense of how that's actually freedom? The ego, or the little me, that part of us that's always trying to defend ourselves, pursues freedom in the form of what I like, right? Avoiding what I don't like and going after what I like. But that's not actually freedom. Can I ask you to pass me that box of tissues over there?
Oh, sure. You can ask me anything.
Thank you. The drip. So that might not be the way that we've conceived of getting to where we want to go, right? We may still be coming here even though we talk about what freedom really is. We might be coming to this class and coming for the little feel-good meditation bit, right? And bypassing or skipping over or pushing away any of the parts that we don't like. Not fully taking in our experience here. Because that might not be the goal of the ego. The little me's goal might not be that kind of freedom. The little me's goal is usually get rid of everything I don't like. That's perfect. That's freedom, when I don't have to deal with any of the stuff that I don't like. And if it's difficult for anyone here to imagine kind of transitioning the goal from escape over to this idea of being able to be in a place where you don't have to run from reality, you might just contemplate how possible has it ever been, and how likely will it ever be that you can selectively experience reality. How possible is it to control your reality in such a way that you only get to have the parts you like? I don't know anybody that's able to do that. If you know someone, please let me know.
Can we share?
Sure.
I just wanted to say something, because it was like, if something happened, it meant something to me related to this class. And I was gardening yesterday with my husband, and anyhow, I tripped and fell really, 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 really hard into the garden shed. And I'm so lucky I didn't break any bones, or my teeth, or the camera was holding at the time, or anything else. But when I fell, it was like so weird. I crashed and I fell, and all this pain was so severe in my body. And I swear to God, this has to do with this class and also with working with you with EMDR, because it was the most bizarre thing. I sat there and I just let it be what it was. And it was like, wow, this pain is really severe. And it's like, what are you going to do about it? I was like, I don't think I'm going to do anything about it. I'm just going to sit here. And so, but I was consciously choosing to like let it go, like in front of me. And it was like, you know, I mean, I didn't get hit in my head, so it wasn't like I was like, you know, seeing stars or anything. But I had like lavender and basil in my hand that I had just picked. And so like the shed was all these beautiful smells, and the pain was severe. Mm-hmm. And I was still just going to sit there with it. And the next thing you know, I was meditating. I was like, wow. You know, it was like so weird. It was the weirdest experience. And I told Cynthia, like after last week with the little midget meditation followed up by a longer one, that the little one set me up for a deeper, longer one, and that I finally felt like I actually meditated for the first time, even though I've been trying this for decades. But that was really interesting to me. And I keep thinking about it, like, how weird to be in that much pain and experience it, but, you know, it was just pain. I mean, you know, and then I finally get up. I don't even know how long I was in there. And my husband's out there, and I'm like, yo, you know, I just fell over. Like, I almost died in the garden shed, you know, with a lot of pain. And he's like, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, you know, thankfully I'm a robust woman, so I didn't break anything, because I really should have broke my arm, but thank you, God. Anyhow, I attribute that experience to meditation and EMDR. I really think I'm still like twinkling from it a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Thanks for sharing that. I think it's a really good description or illustration of what it's like to go through an experience without judging it or pushing it away or trying to manipulate it.
Right.
Right? It's just, oh, this thing happened, I'm in pain. You know, it doesn't sound like you felt like you needed to go to the ER or anything. You knew you were just in pain.
I kept thinking, what does my body need right now? What does my body need? Of course, you've been telling me that for how long? What do you need right now? What do you need right now? So it was like, I need to sit here. I need to breathe. I need to like let the pain be what it is. And unfortunately, I was breathing in lavender and basil. And it was just like, it was heavenly almost. It was like this. It was a weird thing. Mm-hmm. It was so weird.
Yeah. It's all there, all part of your experience.
And just, I mean, for you, yeah, that was a big deal for me. That sounds kind of stupid, but I don't think I would have gone. And the thing that what's more weird is that stayed with me. It's like I'm not forgetting that happened, because I mean, my arm is really hurting. It's swollen and I'm bruised and all that stuff. But I don't know. Because, you know, when you do this stuff, it's hard to get a landmark, or it's hard to get like, oh, I'm improving, or I'm getting somewhere. It's hard to get a barometer on the deal, you know. But when stuff like that happens, then you can measure your I don't know if I want to say measure your success in this context, because it's so competitive, but you know.
So you're noticing that you're responding differently than you would have otherwise.
Like 6 months ago, I would have been there cussing, screaming, and oh my God, it would have been a whole different scene in my neighborhood.
What strikes me is it's almost intuitive, which is really good, because it's like a spontaneous reaction without thought. Like how you know, if you touch something and burns, you put your hand away. It's not something you think, oh, that's burning, I need to pull. So for you, it's so embedded. So that's really a positive thing. It sounds to me, because it's instinct now. It's not, oh, I need to meditate.
Well, I sure
And
hope
that's
so.
kind of cool.
And that's what happens with practice. We develop a more automatic response. And until we get to the place that Jerry's talking about, we practice. And one of the best ways that we can practice when something like that happens is to take a moment, to notice, oh, I'm about to respond in the way I usually would. What happens if I just take a moment and look at what's happening right now? And that can be tough to do. It seems like if you're practicing meditation and you're practicing paying more attention in your daily life, there's a sort of process where you'll notice, oh, I could have done something differently after the fact. And then you'll notice right while you're responding, you're right in the middle of it, and you're like, I'm doing it right now, the thing I usually do. And then it keeps backing up to the point where you can actually have this kind of experience where you can choose something different, so you can begin to build the framework for a new habit. So then pretty soon you'll notice, oh, I'm opening my mouth to do the thing or say the thing that I usually do, and I'm just going to pause for a moment, right? And then maybe it backs up even further, where you notice right before you watch the other person do what they're going to do, and you watch yourself do what you watch, the internal reactions that set you up to engage in that pattern of whatever it is you usually do, and you're conscious of having a choice in the moment. Totally conscious of having a choice. It's really cool. So I love stories like this because it helps us have something to look forward to, right? That it is possible to experience pain. And when I tell people this, they look at me like I'm insane. It's possible to experience pain without suffering. Suffering is the stuff we add to it, the cussing and swearing and this shouldn't have happened and why me and this always happens to me and I attract this kind of stuff and it's never going to end and I can't do anything. I mean, right? We all know what the negative chatter is in our heads, right? Regret or trying to ward off some future danger, all that stuff that's happening in our heads all the time makes us miserable. Instead of just allowing ourselves to be with the thing that's actually happening. It takes some practice. This is a little bit abstract, what we're talking about, right? Because as soon as I say allowing things to be, that little ego, little me, the egoic part of us kind of rises up and, oh no, you mean I have to let people walk all over me? Right? That's not what we're talking about at all. We're not passive. We're not immobilized. We're choosing to take a moment. We're choosing to step back and open ourselves up to reality and see if we can experience what's happening instead of our version of events. Because we all have a built-in filter. We all filter and selectively interpret our reality. And so we're missing stuff. We're missing stuff like Jerry talks about, you know, this experience she got to have, and she might have missed that if all she saw was, this sucks. Right? She got to have a beautiful experience out of, you know, a lot of pain. It's hard for us to make sense of that.
Yeah, and something else happened too. Like, I don't know, and this is, I shouldn't even talk about it now, but it's just like I came to a deeper realization in my own personal therapy about something. And I don't know if the physical pain, like, jarred the hell out of the emotional pain and made it evaporate or something. I don't even know if that makes sense, but it was like something else happened there that we can talk about. But
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they're connected. Our physical pain and our emotional pain are connected. We talk about concepts like the little me or ego and awareness and pain and physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, like they're all these separate things for the sake of communication. But in reality, they're all connected. There's no such thing as a separation between any of those things. If you want to get really abstract, then you could contemplate that there's actually no separation between action and the actor. So, for instance, you know, if I'm drinking tea, but if I don't use any words and I experience drinking tea and I try to find the separate person inside who's drinking the tea, right? So I know the body is picking up the cup, but it feels like there's a me drinking the tea. But if I investigate internally, I can't find a me, and I can't find a distinct dividing line in between the person drinking the tea and the action of drinking the tea. It's an empirical exercise. Okay? So we talk about things as separate concepts, just so everybody knows, at this stage of things, so that we can communicate clearly. So I can point at I can say flowers, and you know, you can point at flowers, and we know we're talking about the flowers. But, you know, the truth that can be spoken is not the truth. You heard that before? So we actually have to narrow things down, and we agree that we're talking about concepts, and the concepts have a specific meaning, a shared meaning that we're agreeing to. So if you ever get confused while we're talking in here, please ask. So because words are a funny thing. They've got all kinds of meanings to different people. And if you don't know what we're talking about, then you need to find out so we can all, it's not something that's wrong with you. It means that everybody is creating their own reality all the time, right? And so we have to have rules about communication in order to have a shared reality. But for the sake of, just so you guys understand, when we talk about these different things like the little me or the ego, and then awareness that's watching experience happen, we're making separate distinctions, that there's awareness and awareness is watching something, because at this stage that's the way that we need to talk about things. But in reality, there's no separation between you and I and the rest of the world, between yourself and your experience, between any aspect of yourself and any other aspect of yourself. There's actually no separation. Everything is connected. Okay. So sorry for getting off on a tangent there. We're going to do a little loving kindness meditation, because I think this is such a useful tool. You can do this anytime, especially especially when reality isn't lining up with your expectations. And that usually means people are not lining up with your expectations. And there's so much going on in the world right now that is so troubling, that stems from fear and people not being aware. And so I think, with all of us in this room, we can generate a good deal of positive energy for the world and for beings everywhere. And so we're just going to do a short loving kindness meditation. You don't have to do it exactly the way that I'm conducting it here. You can put whatever words in there that you like. This one I got from Christopher Germer, and you can find more meditations on his website. So just start to get a sense of your spot. Feel the chair beneath you. Your eyes can be opened or closed. And see if you can allow yourself to fully inhabit your body. We've been talking about a lot of mind stuff, so we're going to become really present to our own existence here in the room. And you just follow along as I guide this meditation. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. Now call to mind the face of a loved one and make this wish for them. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. And again, may they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. Now call to mind the face of someone that you don't know very well. Perhaps a checkout person at a store you shop at, or someone at work, or a neighbor, and make this wish for them. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. Now call to mind the face of someone that you may be having a difficult time with right now. And if you can, make this wish for them. Or if it's too difficult, then go back to making the wish for yourself. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. Now see if you can imagine expanding this wish, extending it to all beings everywhere, wherever they may be. Send them this wish. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. And again, may they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy and strong. May they live with ease. And then close the circle of loving kindness by including yourself, returning to wishing loving kindness thoughts for yourself. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. And finally, may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. And just taking a final moment to absorb these wishes that you've made for yourself and others. And then allow yourself to become present to the room again whenever you're ready. So this is a meditation that we can make use of at any time. And people report that they find changes in their relationships with others, especially those that they have a difficult time with, just by doing this meditation. Pretty cool. Not by trying to change the other person or fix it or do anything. Just by saying that prayer for them. You can find other loving kindness meditations on Christopher Germer's website, and I still highly recommend his book to anyone who has any interest, because everyone who's ever read it tells me that it changes their life. It's called The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion. Okay. So does anyone else, because in a few minutes we'll do our regular guided meditation, wonder if anybody has any questions at this point or comments, anything they'd like to share? Some of this stuff might be confusing at first because it's not how we're used to thinking about reality or thinking about life. This idea of allowing everything, it might be confusing because it feels like, oh, so I'm supposed to allow bad things to happen to me, which is not the case. That's not what I'm suggesting at all.
Could you please repeat that title?
The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion. And I recommend actually stopping every time there's an exercise to do in that book, because there are a lot of exercises, and actually doing the exercise rather than just going through and reading the book without doing any of the activities.
And Germer's G.
E-R-M-E-R. Mm-hmm. So, this quality of open-mindedness that we're talking about. Does anybody have any experience with what it's like to be open-minded? What happens when you allow yourself to freely, well, Jerry shared one of her experiences. Has anyone ever had a taste of that, where you open to your experience without judging it or trying to change it or control it, and something happens, either something unexpected or different than what usually happens, or you notice something, you learn something?
Christopher Germer's book, he
talks about listening without analyzing what you're listening to.
Yeah.
So I found out that when you do that, you actually hear more.
Yeah.
So that was really, that was an eye-opener. That was very nice.
You can practice that, like at work meetings, or because we're usually planning what we're going to say before the other person gets done talking, right? And we're really worried about, I can't forget what I wanted to say, right? So we're so busy trying to make sure we hang on to the point we wanted to make that we're not really receiving what's there. We're not really open. So how much communicating do you think is actually going on? If everybody is really only hearing the first bit and then planning their attack, planning their strategy. So that means we probably better get our point across in the first 3 seconds, right? If nobody's going to hear anything after.
I'm just tied in the business meeting, but this was just sitting in the gazebo listening, just closing my eyes and listening to everything.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is when I discovered that you actually, when you don't, okay, that's a car, that's a bird, that's, when you don't really label anything, you just listen. Actually, much more, there's much more going on. You can actually hear that.
Right. And there's actually a biologically connected function there. It's not just our imagination that is happening. There's the simplest way to describe that is, as soon as we start to judge or label, there's this little doorway in a part of our brain that flips to allow the judgment stream to happen, and it's like we've got 2 channels and they flow into one tube. So you've got the judgment stream flowing and you have the experience stream flowing, and the little door can only be one direction or the other. It doesn't stay in the middle, so you've got judgment and experience. If we start judging, the door flips and closes shut the experience stream. We're no longer experiencing. So whatever we're judging or describing is in the past. It's no longer in the present. So they've done experiments that, I think Stephen Porges is the one who talks about that. He does a lot of trauma research and brain research, and talks about this part of our brain that allows us to perceive what's actually happening in space and time. And he discovered that this function it's one way or the other. As soon as we start talking about our experience, and people will actually argue with me about this, but I didn't do the experiments that came up with the
Is that
the
what
results.
happens when someone introduces themselves and you've already forgotten their name
Probably.
instantly?
Probably.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
yeah, I don't know if I'm thinking about them or if I'm thinking what I'm going to say that closes the door.
Right. I think when we meet someone new, we're probably trying to figure out what we're going to say, right? Yeah, so it doesn't stick.
I
What
hate
they're
that,
saying.
though. They just said it.
Right. So you could practice when you meet someone new. What happens if I just say hello and really be there for them and their name, and let us know what happens.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll try to try it.
I always recommend that you don't believe a word I say. You try this stuff out for yourself. You do your own internal experiments, your own investigation, and find out, is that really true? So what happens? As soon as I start to describe, as soon as I call it a bird, can I keep track of what the bird is doing or what my experience of the bird is in the moment? Or is it true? Is it I can only do one or the other? Test it out for yourself. Find out. See what happens. That would be a really important experiment, right? If we could discover and verify, like here in the gut, verify for ourselves that as soon as the mouth starts right, or the brain starts talking about our experience, we're not experiencing anymore. And that means we're not present, because we can only be talking about something that happened, that just happened.
I had experience trying to get over that habit of holding on to the answer.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I realized I'm being rude. You know, I've got this. Not great. And when I got better at letting go of that, I thought, yeah, sometimes I did forget the answer.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it actually flowed more smoothly because I was with them, and then when they're done, when it's time, my turn, it was much more like flow than a script. Everything just got easy.
Yes. And that's my experience as well, that I can't always remember the brilliant thing that I wanted to say, or the idea I had, or whatever that was, but it usually, the moment usually bears out to be more important that I was present and listening. I mean, as a therapist, you could imagine, you know, people are sitting there talking, and I'm analyzing the crap out of everything, right? That's my job. That's how my brain is put together. But I can't sit there and do that. I have to be present. We feel that. If the person we're talking to is sitting there thinking about what they're going to say, they might look really interested in what we're talking about, but they can feel the lack of connection. Not very good for relationships. You can tell, right? You can tell who you go and talk to. Like, maybe you've got a boss at work. Every time you go to talk to them, they're so busy that, you know, they're only half hearing you, and you got to follow up with an email. Otherwise, it's hopeless. Or maybe, you know, some family member that you have to make eye contact with. Otherwise, can't be guaranteed that the communication actually happened, right? Because we're all living in our own little worlds inside of our head. And connection happens when we open up that little world. When we let go of the, oh no, I might not say the perfect thing or have control over the next moment. The forgetting the thing that I thought was so great that I was going to say. I feel like I'm pretty over it now. Like, oh yeah, the mind tries to say, oh, you need to remember this, right? If you don't remember this, it might never come back again, right? So we believe all these little lies that our mind tells us, that this is so crucial, this is so important. It's important enough, what you have to say is important enough to ignore what the other person is saying right to your face right now, right? And we believe it. We believe, right? But if we investigate the truth of that urgency, we don't buy into the urgency, we'll discover that life is not quite constructed that way. There's a fluidity, like you were saying, where the response that is required is after the other person finishes what they're saying, right? If we start constructing our answer while they're talking, we're not on cue, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, the wrong answer.
Right. We're late.
It's kind of boldness. You know, looking bold. Okay.
Yeah.
Here I am, you know, and
Yeah.
whatever I have to do at the end, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yeah. So there's a basic trust in ourselves, which is another really key thing. Yeah.
And I really hear what you're saying too, because like I have ADD pretty badly, so I'm impulsive and I interrupt people constantly. But I've trained myself to try to shut up and listen. And what happens then is that what you think is so important actually morphs into something else by the time the other person has said their piece, which you really needed to hear. And it's like, for me, it's like almost, for me, I'll equate it to a trust in God and making sure that things work out, right? But it's like, you know, I never think that my thing is like the most important thing ever. And by the time somebody's done talking, like I just let you finish. I was like, oh yeah, he's like, you know, it's like because it morphs into some other thing. But then you said about living bravely. It's like too. It's like when you're an artist too. It's like, oh my God, if I do this creative thing, I have to hold on to it because what if I can't? Well, you just know. I mean, you have to let it go so that more creative stuff comes and so you can do more stuff. And you have to trust, like I think you were saying, you have to trust that it's going to be there. And, you know, for me, that was a maturing point that took me 54 years to get to. But still, you know, the fact that it just is going to be, you know, that way. Sorry, I think I went sideways.
You can think about it this way. So it's a flow, right?
Yeah.
Life is a continuous flow. And as soon as we think we know, like, I know the answer, I know what you need, I know how to fix you, I know what you should do, right? We've clamped it down. And so if life is a flow, or maybe equate it to a movie, so there's tons and tons and tons of frames, we've clamped down on a frame and said that's the thing, but the movie keeps going. The movie has gone, it's left us in the dust, right? And we're stuck in this one little frame. So whether it's the brilliant thing we were going to say, or the art we're trying to do, or some moment in nature we're trying to appreciate, as soon as we clamp down and try to stay there or control it, the beauty is lost. And you're right, it does take some experience, some maturity, some bravery, some experimentation to notice, to play around in little ways to find out, experiment with, is this true? Is it true that I can trust the flow, that I can trust myself? I can trust myself to wait until this person is done speaking to respond in an appropriate way. You have to go find out for yourself. Be your own authority. Find out. Because if you don't conduct the experiment, you'll just keep believing the thing that your head tells you, which is, oh, no, 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 no. Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare trust yourself. You can't be trusted. Awesome discussion. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick break. Use the restroom if you need it. Please silence your cell phones. And we'll come back and do our guided meditation.
There's anybody that's incapable of shifting, making the shift.
Which shift?
I guess just a shift in, like, my ego doesn't say, I have something better. It just says, you're never going to get that. Like, you're jacked up. Like, you are so messed up that it's never going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, then you have to ask permission.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. Are you? Yeah. No, he's not jacked up. Oh, man. Sorry. It wasn't planned.
So, you know, I think if we've got a belief system that tells us we can't trust ourselves, then it takes a lot of work to keep ourselves in that place of challenging those voices and keep coming up with evidence, because the evidence is there. But when we have excessive negativity, it's because there's a bias and we pay attention only to that negativity, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't being noticed. all the ways in which you can trust yourself and you are your own authority. They're not getting noticed. And that's where your practice can help you be open to noticing that those things are there. You don't have to make anything up or try to convince yourself of anything. It's simply opening and beginning to notice that it's already there. The thing that I think I don't have, it's actually already there. There are lots of ways that I already trust myself. I already believe myself. I already take care of myself. They're just not being noticed.
The term that comes to mind when you're saying that is perspective. Like people have a perspective on a lot of different topics, just from past experience or knowledge.
Right, that's our lens.
And but it's changeable.
That's right.
With added experience, added knowledge.
Right.
Is that kind of what
That's
you were
exactly
talking
right.
about? Okay, so perspective, and what was the term you were using?
Openness.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when we open, because we all have these filters, and a lot of good stuff gets filtered out. We're biologically programmed that way. We're put together that way to scan for the negative, the dangerous. Right? That's our survival system. We're designed to survive, not to be happy. Our biology is designed for survival. And it works against us. And if we get unlucky and say, we get a bunch of not so happy things happening to us in a row, it might just prime that system where all we can do is keep looking for the next thing, the next dangerous thing that's going to come our way. And it doesn't mean that there's nothing else happening. It just means that our system is set to only scan for those things because that's the way we're put together. The survival piece is so important. That's the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. Survival needs are first, and then we can worry about self-actualization and happiness and all that stuff. And if we've got an overactive survival system, that can be a symptom of trauma. If we've got anxiety and panic and emotional stuff that feels like it's out of control, or energy stuff that feels like we're always either too much energy or not enough energy, that's a sign of trauma. That's unresolved trauma or incomplete defensive responses in the body. That's the biological way of describing it. Okay. So I had the timer set on 24 minutes. Is everybody okay with that? Or should we can go down to 20 if that's too intimidating? I won't leave you on your own in silence. It's all guided, so usually people don't have too much trouble with that. But that's going to put us at like quarter till 9. Is that okay? Okay. All right. Are you guys okay with that light on while you meditate? Okay. So, again, you're just going to try to relax into your chair. See if you can allow yourself to receive the comfort, the feeling of comfort from the place where you're sitting right now. And your chair doesn't even have to be the most comfortable chair. There is some sense of comfort in just sitting, not having to support yourself with your feet. Why don't you take my chair? Sure.
It's something itching.
Oh,
I love that put this. I have allergies.
Oh, I can switch.
Itching all over.
why don't you
switch.
take my chair?
Actually, I'm too hot.
It's like leather
Or something.
Right?
Anyhow,
We're good now, right?
So see if you can just allow yourself to receive the comfort of sitting. And feel the chair beneath you and whatever is supporting your back. And I'm going to start the timer. Allow yourself to drop into your body and fully inhabit your body. And be here totally in this moment because you've chosen to be here. So just see if you can allow yourself to fully be here since that was your intention for this evening. And then let your attention drift up to notice the top of your head. And your only job is to notice. You're just going to notice any sensations in the top of your head. What is the experience of the top of your head right now? And just like receiving the comfort of the chair, you're allowing yourself to receive the experience, the noticing at the top of your head without judgment or labeling. And then gently let your attention drift down to begin to notice your face. You might notice areas around the eyes or the mouth that are tense. And see if you can just release whatever tension is there. Noticing where your tongue is in your mouth and whether your jaw is clenched. Can you just part your teeth slightly or allow your tongue to rest comfortably in the bottom of your mouth? And then notice what it's like to have relaxed or released the tension in your face and in your jaw. And allow your attention to drift around to notice the sides of your head. Taking note of any sensations you find there. And you might find tension or you might find nothing at all. You could imagine allowing your ears to drop slightly as a way of releasing any tension in the temples. And then just notice what it's like to release that tension. Again, your only job is to notice. You could even notice if the mind comes in and tries to judge or label or analyze. And then just come back to noticing the sensations. And now, slowly, gently, allow your attention to move around to the back of your head and start to notice the back of your head and the back of your neck. And just noticing whatever you find there. It's not really easy to voluntarily relax those areas. So if there's tension, you might make a request for some relaxation there in the back of the head or the neck. And see if you can open to receive whatever release occurs from there. then reminding yourself as often as you need to that your only job is to notice. And let your attention move down and start to notice your shoulders. You could scan from your neck across your shoulders and down your arms, noticing each part of your arm as you scan down to your elbows, across your forearms, down to your wrists and palms, and all the way to your fingertips. And all you're doing is noticing whatever sensations that you find there, whether it's tingling or tightness or discomfort, restlessness, achiness, coolness or warmth. Whatever you find, you're just seeing if you can open to the experience of that and be with it just for a little while. And now you're going to shift your attention gently, leaving whatever sensations you found there in your arms to be there, right there where you found it in your arms, and moving your attention to notice the core of your body, scanning from your throat all the way down to your hips, noticing your upper chest, diaphragm and belly, all the way down to your hips. You might notice tension in the front of your body or in the back. Sometimes we've got a tenseness in the front of our body, sort of a layer of protection that we carry with us throughout the day. And see if you could just release that, just for this time of your meditation. Imagine the throat area loosening and the area at the level of your heart opening. Imagine your belly softening, just letting it go. And feeling relaxation in your hips. And just taking note of any relaxation that you were able to experience in front of your body. And now you're going to leave whatever you found in the front of your body right there where it is, and let your attention move down to your hips and scanning down your legs all the way to your toes, noticing as you go the front and the back of your upper legs. Notice the sensation of it. And notice your knees. And continuing to scan down Noticing your shins, or the front of your leg, and then the calves and the back of your lower leg. Notice what they feel like. Scanning down to your ankles and across the length of your foot from heel to toe. And you're just getting a sense of what your legs feel like this evening. There's nothing else that you have to do except notice. And if some part wants to say that it doesn't like how the legs feel, you can just notice that too. You don't have to fight it. Everything is allowed in this space of awareness. Your only job is to notice. You can notice tingling or tightness or anything else in your legs, coolness or vibration, restlessness. Just noticing. And seeing if you can have a moment of just experiencing, not being in conflict. Just allowing the experience of your legs and your feet to be whatever it is. And now you're going to shift your attention again, leaving whatever you found there in your legs and your feet to be there, right there where it is. Moving your awareness up until it reaches the place of your breath. And you're just going to use your awareness to notice the fact that you're breathing without trying to change the breath in any way. You're just noticing the breathing in and the breathing out. You don't even have to claim it as my breath. You can just notice it as breathing. Breathing in, breathing out. And see if you can let your attention come to rest in the place where you experience your breath most strongly. And just notice what that is. Is it the sensation of air going in and out? Is it the sound of your breath? Is it the rising and falling of your chest, your belly? Or you might see if you can find the pause, the space at the end of the out-breath that's there before you begin to draw your next breath. Just noticing it. It's there. And as you feel ready, you could begin to allow other things happening in the present moment to be included in the space of your awareness. Whatever's happening right now, in addition to your breath. You might notice sounds in the room. Sensations like the feeling of your clothes or your shoes on your body. The feeling of the chair beneath you. The temperature of the room. The taste in your mouth. And you can allow your attention to go to any of these things as it wills. You're just noticing, like you might follow a dog after you let it off the leash. Just watching where it goes. You might even notice thoughts trying to come. You might notice discomfort or restlessness or boredom. Anything at all, even sleepiness, can be embraced in a moment. You can just notice that it's happening and be curious. Asking, what's that like? What's the experience of that without labeling it? Can I be curious about? And if thoughts try to carry you away, there's no need to be worried. You can just notice that thought is distracting you and come back to noticing what's happening in the present moment. And if it helps, you can introduce this question into your space, into your meditation space. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? There's no answer to the question. The answer is in your experience after you ask it. You're just noticing what it's like to not be trying to control anything, to be without an agenda, in this state of relaxed alertness, not hanging on too tightly, not being too sleepy, staying right in the middle where you're just noticing. And the key to noticing, to staying in this space, is to remember that whatever you experience in this moment, and however you experience it, is fine exactly as it is. It needs no alteration. just noticing what it's like to allow everything to be as it is, in a safe, controlled space. What happens if I even let go of the meditator, the one who's trying to do it right, who's trying to meditate well? Let the meditator fall into the back seat, not be driving. And if you get sleepy or disoriented, you can always open your eyes to ground yourself for a moment. Take a couple of deeper breaths. Or introduce the question as often as needed. Am I really and truly allowing everything to be as it is? Am I truly and deeply allowing everything to be as it is in this moment? Not in opposition to anything. What's the experience of that? I'm just noticing. The space of quiet comes from this open. And just allowing yourself to take one more minute as we reach the end of this meditation to savor the silence, the space. Remembering that you didn't have to do anything to make it happen. All you had to do was nothing. Just taking in that silence, relaxation. And as you feel ready, you can begin to send some energy into your arms and legs, and some movement into your fingers and toes. And give yourself as much time taking as much time as you need to transition. So nice to be here with you all this evening. Namaste. As always, if you have any questions about practice, feel free to call me. That's a long time. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever taken that long of a break before.
I don't think it's good break. I take issue with it. I'll accept it as it is. Yes. Yeah, that'll be me.
Oh,
Where's
gosh.
Cynthia? Cynthia,
You're
I'm here.
welcome.